Hey there, welcome back. Pull up a chair and get comfortable because today we're going to do something a little different. I want you to picture this. You're emptying your pockets at the end of a long day. Let's get started, or maybe you're digging through an old jar of change that's been sitting on the dresser for years. Your fingers brush past pennies and nickels, and then you see it. A small silver dime, but this one looks rough. It's dirty, covered in a dull gray film with scratches across Lady Liberty's face and edges that have been worn smooth from decades of being passed from hand to hand. It's the kind of coin you normally ignore, the kind you'd spend without a second thought on a pack of gum or a soda. But here's the thing I want you to hold on to. That ugly, beat-up, easy-to-overlook dime might just be carrying a secret that could stop you in your tracks. Now let that curiosity sit for a moment. Because this isn't just any dime. This is a 1976 Roosevelt dime, and while most of them are exactly what they seem, a tiny fraction of these coins are hiding something remarkable. You see, 1976 was America's bicentennial year, a time when the mint went wild with special designs for the quarter and the half dollar. But the dime, it kept its classic look. The profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the front, and the torch, olive branch and oak branch on the back. Most people assume that meant every dime from that year was common, worthless, forgettable. And for the millions of regular dimes that left the mint, that's true. But buried in that year's production, mostly from the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and especially from the San Francisco proof sets, are errors and varieties that can turn that grimy little coin into something genuinely valuable. So what makes a 1976 dime different enough to matter? The answer lies in the tiny details that only a careful eye would catch. The big one to look for is a missing mint mark. Normally, dimes struck in San Francisco for collectors carry a small S, just to the right of Roosevelt's neck. But in 1976, a handful of proof dimes left the San Francisco mint without that little letter. These no S dimes are extremely rare. Experts believe only a few dozen exist. And rarity, especially for a coin that was supposed to be perfect, drives the market wild. There's also a known double die variety on the obverse, where you can see ghost-like shadows or extra thickness on words like liberty and in God we trust. That kind of manufacturing mistake, caused by a misaligned die stamping the coin twice, can turn an otherwise pocket-worn coin into a treasure. Here's exactly how you can check the dime sitting in your hand right now or the one buried in that old jar. First, get a magnifying glass or even just your phone's camera zoomed in tight. Look at the date first. 1976 should be clear. Then, just to the right of Roosevelt's bust, scan for a mint mark. If you see a D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia, that's the common type, but don't stop yet. If you see no mint mark at all, and the coin has a sharp, mirror-like finish, even if it's scratched or dirty, you might have a no S proof dime that somehow escaped into circulation. Next, study the letters in Liberty and the motto. Look for any doubling, especially on the bottom curves of the letters. If the letters look blurry or have a second outline, that's the doubled die. Even if the coin is worn down, those error features often survive because they're pressed deep into the metal. This is the part that surprises most people. Even a coin that looks ugly, scratched, stained, faded, or worn almost smooth can still be worth serious money. Collectors don't care about a little dirt or honest wear when they're chasing a true rarity. In fact, the value of a 1976 dime with a major error often starts around $850 for a well-circulated example that still shows the doubling or missing mint mark. Move up to a cleaner condition, one that's been lightly used but not abused, and you're looking at $1,300 or more. I've seen certified pieces from reputable grading companies sell for $2,100 at auction because the error was dramatic and the coin had survived intact. And if you stumble upon a no S proof dime in exceptional shape, maybe one that was accidentally released into a mint set and then pulled out and spent, prices can climb to $3,400. The absolute finest known examples, with sharp details and original luster, have traded hands for $4,700 or even a little higher. So yes, that dirty, scratched, easy-to-ignore dime has real value, real potential, and real history hiding beneath its grimy surface. Before you get too excited and decide to scrub that coin clean, listen to me carefully. Do not clean it. Do not dip it in vinegar. Do not rub it with baking soda. And for the love of all that is good, do not use a polishing cloth. Cleaning a coin strips away its natural surface and leaves tiny scratches that are obvious to any collector or grader. What might have been a $4,700 coin becomes a $50 curiosity the moment you try to make it shiny. The dirt, the tunning, even the dark spots, none of that hurts the value if the coin is genuine and the error is clear. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGCC cleaned coins every day, and they'll label them as such, which cuts the value down to almost nothing. So put the cleanser away, handle the coin by its edges, and if you want to look closer, just use good light and a magnifying glass. So here, where we end up. That little 1976 dime, the one that looks like it's been through the washing machine twice and then kicked under the car seat for a decade, might be one of the lucky few that carries that unexpected price tag. The bicentennial year gave us a lot of celebration, but it also gave us a handful of minting mistakes that most people have walked right past for almost 50 years. So take a few minutes this evening. Go check your change jar, your old coat pockets, the cup holder in your car, or that box of odds and ends from your parents' attic. Look for a 1976 date, check for that missing mint mark, and study the letters for doubling. And if you find one, don't clean it, don't spend it, and don't shrug it off as just another dirty dime. Because sometimes the ugliest, most beaten-up coins are the ones telling the most valuable story. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one. Next coin, 1984 P dime in your hand, or just picture it. The silver-colored surface has faded to a dull, lifeless gray, and the high points of Liberty's profile, her hair, her jawline, the small letters of Liberty above her head, are rubbed almost smooth. You might see tiny scratches crossing her cheek, a few dark spots near the rim, and the reeded edge feels flat instead of sharp. The reverse isn't much better. The torch's flames are blurry, and the olive branch looks more like a lump than a detailed botanical design. From an analytical standpoint, this coin appears to have lived a hard life, maybe decades in cash registers, pockets, and parking meters. And because it's a 1984 dime struck at the Philadelphia Mint, marked by the absence of any mint mark, most people who see it will immediately assume it's worth exactly 10 cents. They'll shrug, drop it back into the change jar, and move on without a second thought. That assumption is completely understandable, and that's exactly why so many valuable 1984 P dimes have been spent or ignored for nearly 40 years. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes in 1984, over 856 million, to be more precise. With numbers that high, the odds of finding a rare or valuable specimen seem astronomically low. And for the vast majority of those coins, that's true. But what most people don't realize is that within that enormous mintage, a small number of 1984 P dimes were struck with a major manufacturing error that transforms an otherwise common coin into a serious collector's prize. The problem is that the error isn't obvious at a glance. It doesn't change the weight, size, or color. You need to look closely, and you need to know exactly what you're searching for. That's why so many of these coins have been misjudged, dismissed, and left to rot in circulation, while quietly holding a value that could surprise anyone. Let's back up and talk about why the 1984 P dime has developed such a strong following among error collectors. The key is a specific double die variety on the obverse, officially designated as FS101, or 1984 P10CDDO001 in some catalogs. This happened when the master die used to stamp the coin's design was misaligned during the hubbing process, causing a second, slightly shifted impression. The result is clear doubling on the date and the inscriptions, particularly on the word Liberty, and the motto, "In God We Trust." On a sharp, uncirculated coin, You can see distinct extra thickness or even a ghost-like second image to the southeast of the primary letters. But here, what surprises most people? Even on a worn, dull, scratched-up dime that's been through hell, that doubling often remains visible because it was struck deep into the planchet. The wear might erase the fine details of Liberty's hair, but the doubled letters can still stand out like a fingerprint. So how do you actually check a 1984 P dime sitting in front of you? First, set aside the idea that you need a microscope or professional training. A simple magnifying glass with 10 power magnification is enough, and even a good smartphone camera zoomed in can reveal the telltale signs. Look first at the date, the numerals 1984. On a normal dime, each digit has clean, single edges. On the double die variety, the 9 and the 8 will show extra metal along their lower right sides, almost like a shadow. Then move your eyes up to the word Liberty. Pay close attention to the letters B, E, and R. You're looking for notched corners or a clear second outline slightly to the east. The strongest doubling typically appears on the I in Liberty and the T in Trust. If you see any of these features even faintly, do not spend that coin. You have found something that collectors actively hunt. Now let's talk about condition, because a lot of people assume that a worn coin can't be worth much. That's false when it comes to major error varieties. The value of a 1984 P double die dime is driven primarily by the visibility of the doubling, not by whether the coin looks shiny and new. A well-circulated example that's graded G4 good or VG8 very good can still command serious money if the doubling is bold enough to authenticate. In fact, even a coin with heavy scratches, dark tunning, and flattened rims can be worth $920 or more at auction because the error is so scarce and so well known. Move up to a coin that's seen moderate circulation but still has some luster in the protected areas, say a grade of fine 12 or very fine 20, and the price jumps to $1,650 easily. Collectors will pay a premium for any example that shows clear doubling without major damage. If you're lucky enough to find a 1984 P dime that was pulled from circulation early, one that has only light wear and retains most of its original mint luster, you're looking at values around $2,750. These are often called AU, about uncirculated specimens, and they're rare because most error coins were discovered after years of use. Step up to a true mint state coin, graded MS60 or MS62, and the price climbs to $3,850 as the doubling becomes crisp and the coin's surfaces are largely mark-free. And for the finest known examples, coins that have been certified by PCGS or NGC in MS64 or MS65, with full original luster and no distracting blemishes, the value can reach $4,900 or even higher. That's nearly $5,000 for a dime that looks, at first glance, like any other dull piece of pocket change. So yes, this coin carries strong value, and that value exists across a wide range of conditions. Before you run off to find your magnifying glass, let me give you a crucial warning that applies to every old coin but especially to this one. Do not clean your 1984 P dime. I know it looks dirty, gray, and probably stained. I know you might be tempted to dip it in soapy water or rub it gently with a soft cloth. Do not do it. Cleaning a coin scratches the surface in ways that professional graders can spot instantly, and it strips away the natural patina that actually helps authenticate the doubling. A cleaned coin loses the vast majority of its collector value. A $3,850 error dime can become a $50 curiosity after an amateur scrub. If you want to see the details better, just use better light and a magnifier. Handle the coin by its edges. Leave the dirt exactly where it is. That grime is part of the coin's honest history, and collectors respect that far more than a fake, shiny surface. So here's the simple takeaway. Your 1984 P dime might look worn, dull, scratched, and easy to ignore. You might have passed over 100 of them without a thought. But now you know what to look for: the doubled letters on Liberty and In God We Trust, the notched digits in the date, and the telltale extra thickness that shouldn't be there. Take a few minutes tonight to check any 1984 dimes you have lying around. Use good light, take your time, and don't clean anything. If you don't see the doubling, you've lost nothing but a few minutes. But if you do see it, you've just found a coin that collectors are actively paying hundreds or even thousands of dollars to own. That's the beauty of overlooked change, and that's why the ugliest dimes sometimes tell the most profitable stories. Thanks for watching and happy hunting. Second coin, imagine this. You're sorting through an old cardboard box that belonged to a grandparent, the kind of box that smells like mothballs and time. Inside, there's a chipped ceramic jar half filled with loose change, pennies from the 1970s, a few worn nickels, and then you see it. A small dime, but this one looks almost sad. The silver color has turned into a muddy, uneven brown and gray, like it was left in a damp basement for years. There's a sticky spot near the rim, maybe from old tape, and the surface is covered in tiny scratches and one deep gouge across Liberty's cheek. Your first instinct is to toss it back into the pile, because who would want an ugly, discolored, beat-up coin like this? But something makes you hold on to it for a second longer, maybe because it came from someone you loved, and that small hesitation might just change everything. That dime is a 1988 Roosevelt Dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint over 35 years ago. And the reason I want you to hold on to that feeling of nostalgia is because this particular coin, despite its miserable appearance, has a secret that most people would walk right past. You see, 1988 was a year of transition for the Mint, and while hundreds of millions of dimes were produced, a tiny fraction were struck with a remarkable error, a double die obverse that affects the date and the word Liberty. On a normal 1988 dime, the numerals and letters are crisp and singular, but on the rare variety, the die shifted slightly during the hubbing process, creating a ghost-like second image. And here's the emotional part. Your grandparent probably never knew they were holding something special. They just saw a dime, spent it on a cup of coffee, or dropped it into that jar as spare change. And now, decades later, that same ugly little coin is sitting in your hand, completely misjudged by everyone who ever touched it. Let me walk you through why this coin matters, because the story gets even more touching when you understand the scarcity. The 1988 double die dime is not something you hear about on the news or see in flashy coin commercials. It's a quiet treasure, known mostly to serious collectors who spend years hunting through rolls of bankrupt dimes. The doubling is subtle, strongest on the first 8 in 1988, and on the letters B and E in Liberty. On a shiny, uncirculated coin, it's easy to spot. But on a coin like the one you just found, dull, scratched, and discolored, the doubling can look like just another flaw. That's why so many of these dimes have been thrown back into jars, spent at gas stations, or even lost in couch cushions. People see the wear and assume the coin is worthless. They don't realize that the very same wear that makes the coin look ugly also proves it's real, an authentic piece of circulation history that somehow survived. So how do you check your own 1988 dime without any special equipment? Hold it under a bright lamp, or better yet, take it near a window on a sunny day. Use a magnifying glass if you have one, but even your phone's camera zoomed in can work. Look closely at the date, right where the 1988 is printed. On a normal dime, each digit has clean, sharp edges. On the double die variety, the first 8 will show a clear extra rim or notch on its lower left side, almost like a tiny shelf of metal. Then move your gaze up to the word Liberty. Focus on the B and the E. Do you see a second, slightly offset image? It might look like a shadow or a blur, but if you tilt the coin in the light, that shadow will catch the glare differently than the rest of the letter. That's the doubling. And even if the rest of the coin is scratched, stained, or worn smooth, that diagnostic feature remains because it was struck deep into the planchet when the coin was made. Now let's talk about what this ugly little dime could actually be worth, because this is where the emotion turns into real amazement. A circulated 1988 double die dime in poor but recognizable condition, the kind that looks exactly like the one you just found, typically starts at $780 at a reputable coin auction. That's for a coin with heavy wear, dark spots, and visible scratches, as long as the doubling is clear enough to authenticate. If the coin has seen lighter circulation, with most of Liberty's hairline still visible and only moderate discoloration, the value rises to around $1,250. I've seen examples graded fine 12 sell for $2,050 because the doubling was bold and the coin had an honest, untouched look. Move into very fine condition, where the torch's flames are still distinct and the word Liberty is fully readable, and you're looking at $3,300 or more. And for the rare few that were pulled from circulation early and survived in mint state, may be found in an old proof set or an unopened roll, prices have reached $4,600 and even higher. That's nearly $5,000 for a coin that looks, at first glance, like garbage. Before you get too excited and decide to scrub that grime off with soap and a toothbrush, I need you to hear this clearly and emotionally. Do not clean the coin. I know it's tempting. That dirt and discoloration feels like it's hiding the beauty underneath. But cleaning a coin, even gently, scratches the soft metal surface and strips away the natural patina that collectors actually want to see. A clean 1988p double dime loses 80 to 90% of its value. That $4,600 coin becomes a $400 coin if you rub it. The professionals at PCGS and NGC can spot a cleaned coin from across the room, so instead of cleaning, just accept the ugliness. That dark tunning, those honest scratches, that sticky residue, it's all part of the coin's journey from a mint in Philadelphia to your grandparents' jar to your hand. Leave it exactly as it is. Handle it only by the edges. And if you want to show someone, use a magnifier, not a cloth. So here, where we end up, and I hope this stays with you. That little 1988p dime, the one that looked discolored, scratched, and easy to ignore, might be carrying a piece of hidden history and hidden value that your family never knew about. It's a reminder that the things we overlook, the worn-out change, the forgotten jars, the dusty drawers, sometimes hold the biggest surprises. Take a few minutes tonight to check any 1988 dimes you have. Look at the date and the word Liberty with a careful eye. Don't clean anything. And if you find that doubling, don't spend it. Set it aside, do a little more research, and consider sending it to a grading service. Because value isn't always shiny and new. Sometimes it's old, ugly, and waiting for someone to care enough to look twice. Thanks for being here, and take care of those old coins.